And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hot Takes Goodman and Haertl. Bruce, how are you this morning?
I'm good, Eric. Probably don't sound great, but I feel much better than I did this time. You guys are obviously an elixir for my health. Just getting to this show every morning makes me a better person. Here we go.
Well, I think we're an elixir because we're not anywhere near you, so we can't get you anywhere sick.
Well, consider yourselves lucky on that one. That's for sure. Yikes.
Okay. Before we get the show going, I want to tell you about Roller Auction on Wednesday, April 2nd. There's a City of Aurora impounded vehicles auction featuring trucks, cars, SUVs, trailers, and more. Bidding is started at rollerauction.com. Don't forget to go to rollerauction.com to learn about upcoming auctions. Get what you want at the price you want today at Roller Auction. Time now for the lead.
The lead is presented by Smokin' Dave's Barbecue. It is not just the best barbecue in town, it is one of the best restaurants in town. You can find Smokin' Dave's Barbecue off 36th and Pecos.
Hey, Bruce, it's fair to say the Broncos were a model of instability after winning the Super Bowl. And they've had 5 head coaches, including Sean Payton, over 9 years. That also includes 14 different quarterbacks. Now Payton going into his 3rd year in Denver. Bo is the unquestionable starter on this team. He certainly signals stability as well. And Sean Payton addressed that yesterday at the owners' meeting, saying it's nice not to have to look for a quarterback. Stability is finally here, but now the question for you is, does stability of a franchise have more to do with a head coach or a quarterback?
It's an interesting question, and I would add another dimension to it. If you can have ownership, coaching, quarterback in some form of equal portioning, then you are in pretty good shape. The Broncos have, I think, by any measure, and we see them day to day in their operations, and we've seen them in really big issues and even the smallest and quaintest of issues in running a team where they have shown tremendous consistency and insight. I think that they've got a really good thing going right now. Specifically to your question, always give me a coach, but the quarterback to me is the face of the franchise, the operational face of the franchise. Without a quarterback, you can't do the fundamental thing that you need to do to win football games, which is to score points. And everyone can talk about, well, defense wins championships, this, that, and the other thing. The NFL is a points-driven league. You got to score points. You've got to have offense. And you can't have offense without a franchise quarterback. Now, if you've got a franchise quarterback, to me, it's a no-brainer. If you've got just an average quarterback or a better than average quarterback, I would listen to more of the argument. But for me, if you're going to put me in a tough situation and say, hey, make a pick, I'll go ahead and take the franchise quarterback pretty much every time.
It's all about the quarterback. The quarterback, if the quarterback is great, that head coach is going to keep his job.
Right.
Pretty much. I mean, how many times have you seen a great quarterback go through instability with his head coach? It happens rarely. I'll give you an example where there has been a lot of, consternation. Look at Buffalo. There are a lot of Bills fans who are not happy with Sean McDermott. A lot of Bills fans. If he did not have Sean McDermott, if the Bills did not have Josh Allen, I think Sean McDermott is not working for the Bills. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I would, even though I think Sean McDermott's a very good coach. But isn't it interesting that in a place like Buffalo, who now has risen has risen to the point of Super Bowl contenders, that all the heat is on Sean McDermott, none of it is on Josh Allen. It's interesting. I mean, you would think that there would be, if you really want to point fingers with a team that is of a championship quality, it starts with the head coach, at least in Buffalo, which I find interesting.
What does Sean McDermott run? The defense. That's his job.
And that's it. Right.
How much does Sean McDermott really have to do? How much has he had to do with running the offense? Really not a lot. And I've said for many, many years, show me a Hall of Fame coach and I'll show you a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Right.
And that happens all the time, right? You look at Bill Belichick is probably your number one example, at least currently. How did he do without Tom Brady? In those 4 seasons, 3 of those were losing seasons. 1 made the playoffs. Chuck Noll had a difficult time winning without Terry Bradshaw. Don Shula, who I think won more games than any coach in NFL history. I can't remember if, Belichick has not passed him yet. Belichick, I don't think, has passed him yet. But Don Shula had 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Johnny Unitas was a really good quarterback. Very, very good.
Really good.
Before Don
Great.
Shula, before Don Shula got there. You could make an argument with Bob Greasy. Don Shula helped Bob Greasy become a much better quarterback, although they were more of a running team back then.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't much of a passing team. And then with Dan Marino, he was a generational talent. Yeah. So the next area where I really want to go to on this is the wide receiver. The wide receiver position is generally considered to be dependent on the quarterback. Is the same true that a head coach is dependent on a quarterback?
Yeah, I maybe not in a totally congruous fashion, but at least in general terms, I do think that a coach's success, or what is deemed as success, is tied directly to the success of a quarterback. It all comes down to winning games. We can talk about defense wins games and wins championships. I get all of that. But by and large, you start at the quarterback position. Now, the old Ravens, they were an anomaly. They were a team that won with defense and special teams. When they had Trent Dilfer, he was not a franchise quarterback that won games for them in the way that a John Elway or a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady could do. Yeah, I think that they are very much tied together. And isn't it interesting that if the question is in the relationship between a quarterback and a wide receiver, it's got to be the same as a quarterback and a coach. A coach is dependent on the quarterback. A wide receiver is dependent on the quarterback. And by the way, everything else in the offense is dependent on the quarterback. There is no more important position that I know of in all of organized sports than the quarterback. There is nothing asked of one player more than there is of an NFL quarterback, period. It's not even close.
Well, I think that you can have a great quarterback, but he can be even better than great if he's with the right head coach. I think Patrick Mahomes would be great no matter who was his head coach, right? Listen, Joe Montana was still pretty stinking good under Marty Schottenheimer, who loved to run the ball as much as anybody, right? You look at, and we'll bring up the Ravens. Brian Billick was an offensive-minded head coach. Yeah. It was his defense that was great. Tony Dungy was a defensive-minded head coach, yet Peyton Manning was his quarterback. Yeah. I think that Sean Payton is an interesting guy, similar to, and I'm not saying Sean Payton is Bill Walsh. I'm not suggesting that at all. Drew Brees was a Pro Bowl quarterback under Marty Schottenheimer with the Chargers. He had the talent there, but the marriage between Sean Payton and Drew Brees took Drew Brees to another level. No matter how much you dislike, if you dislike Sean Payton, you can't argue that Sean Payton did not help make Drew Brees a better quarterback. I think Payton will do the same thing for Bo Nix. I think Bill Walsh did the same thing for Joe Montana. I think that when you look at a guy like Johnny Unitas and Dan Marino under Don Shula, they'd be great under any system. But Bob Greasy was better under Don Shula. Looking ahead, and I'm looking way ahead here. Let's say, for the sake of argument, under under Sean Payton, if the Broncos make it to at least one AFC championship game, and they are a 10 and 11 win team for however many years, with the combination of Payton and Bo Nix,
Right.
is Payton's ticket pretty much punched to the Hall of Fame, even if he never makes it to the Bowl?
If you're giving me a 5 or 6 year period where they are right in that championship window, say like a Buffalo Bills team is right now, a team that is in that window, that has had a lot to say about who wins in the AFC, but has yet to get to a Super Bowl, I think the answer is an unequivocal yes. I do think once you win that Super Bowl, you are viewed in a totally different kind of prism. And the fact that Sean Payton has been such a generally consistent, and that actually kind of indicates inconsistency when I say generally consistent, but he's been a pretty consistent winner over the years. And I think that what we have seen from him now, it would be very hard to think that the best is not yet to come for Sean Payton and the Broncos. They took a huge step a year ago, and I think that it largely came from Sean Payton's vision for his offense and for his quarterback. You brought up the Drew Brees analogy, and you're right. Drew Brees was a very good player with the Chargers, but he found his calling with the New Orleans Saints and with Sean Payton. I don't know if Drew Brees ends up with another coach in another place, I don't know if it's a Hall of Fame career. It's a damn good career, but it's a Hall of Fame career because of his union with Sean Payton. Now, look, I'm not putting the cart before the horse with Bo Nix, but I am saying this. This is a almost perfect match in sensibility, IQ, desire, what they see in the offense, ability to work together. How it comes to fruition, how it comes to in terms of wins and losses remains to be seen, but they're on a pretty good track.
I want to take a hard right turn. Greg Penner at the owners' meetings yesterday told the media that Denver, Lone Tree, and now Aurora are on the list for potential sites for a new stadium. You have always lived near the city, Bruce. I lived in the city when I first moved here. Now I live down in Centennial, right next to Lone Tree. If you lived in Aurora or Lone Tree, the suburbs, right, would you want a stadium built near your home?
If I'm a young person and I like the vibe and the energy and everything that would come with it, you're dang right that I would. Absolutely. If I'm a little bit more mature and maybe a little further along and maybe I valued my quiet a little bit more, it's not having the stadium there, it's the traffic and the people that come with it that would drive me probably to drink. And I don't want to sound stodgy or anything like that, but you just pointed, well, thank you. I'm a downtown guy. I like, first of all, I like where the stadium is now. I think that there are other places, perhaps the new NWSL franchise is going to be playing in a brand new facility at Santa Fe, at the rail station or Santa Fe Yards, I guess is the proper designation. I think there are places where you can continue that downtown dynamic. I think it's part of what makes going to Broncos games really cool. I think it would be a shame if they took that dynamic off the plate.
See, it's funny. You're looking at it from the Broncos, right? Well, how many Broncos games do you have to deal with for traffic? We are forgetting all the concerts as well.
No, you're
as a young person, and oh, by the way, they will likely put a dome on that place, which means you might have a Super Bowl and you might have more NCAA tournaments and everything else that goes with having a dome stadium. There will be a lot of traffic, but I look at it from a very pragmatic financial point of view. I don't want to live right next to the stadium. I can promise you that.
Right.
But if I lived 2 miles from the stadium, I'm fine with it. Why? My home values are going to go up. I am more than happy for that. I am more than happy for all of the sweeteners that go with it. That I'm not suggesting it's going to be another Lodo, but I am suggesting there's going to be a lot more to do as well. The traffic will suck in that area. And wherever they decide to build it, either they're going to build new roads or it's going to be an absolute logjam. I'm guessing they're going to find a way to make the traffic better. I mean, when they talked about bringing the Olympics here, what did they talk about with I-70? They were going to expand it. That would have been good for everybody once that construction was complete. But going through the process, it would have been awful.
Yeah. The one thing that I am sure of, and I would stake whatever kind of reputation I have on it, is that this ownership group, thank you, that this ownership group will get it right. I have incredible faith in this ownership group who have big things, small things, everything in between so far, knock on wood, have been nothing short of remarkable. They are so tuned in to not only their players, their staff, their coaching staff, but fans in general. I think that whatever they do, it will be done well. It'll be done with class. It'll be done with great vision, not only for the present, but for the future. And I think it will be a just remarkable undertaking that people will be extremely excited about, because this is a visionary group, man. From Melody Hobson to Lewis Hamilton, all of the people that are involved in this, the energy and the creativity is just unbelievable. Condoleezza Rice. I mean, the names just are very, very impressive. And what they've done really in the short amount of time that they've been the ownership group of this team, I think is remarkable.
What I'm about to say is going to sound blasphemous. Pat Bowlen is the greatest owner in the history of Denver sports in terms of how he related to his players.
Right.
Stories about how he gave Carl Mecklenburg a bonus for sacks when he did not have to do it. Listen, we can rail on Stan Kroenke all we want to when it comes to the whole Comcast fiasco, but the truth is he's won championships too. He's won championships as well. But dare I say, and again, it sounds blasphemous, that Greg Penner and Kerry Penner and that group are already, despite not winning Super Bowls, I get it, are already giving Pat Bowlen a run for his money for what could be the greatest owner in the history of the franchise. We are early, but it seems like everything that Greg Penner does is well thought out. I think everything that Pat Bowlen did was well thought out. Here's the difference. Greg Penner has all the money that he needs to execute any plan that he wants. Pat Bowlen did not have that type of money. And he made every penny work for him to help this franchise become what it is. I mean, there were so many different changes when Mike Shanahan got to town. And the reason why I'm bringing up Mike Shanahan is Mike and Pat Bowlen were very, very close. And it is my understanding, Mike said to Pat, I just came from the 49ers franchise.
Right.
When we go on the road, there aren't two guys in a room. There's one guy in a room at a time when we travel on the road. Pat Bowlen made that change. When Mike Shanahan came to Denver, he said to Pat Bowlen, we don't brown bag lunches after practice. We have really good, nice food. Pat Bowlen made that change. Pat Bowlen made all the necessary changes he needed to make within his budget. and made very smart decisions. I think the Penner Group is making very, very smart decisions. And I know it sounds like I'm pumping their tires. I'm not on their payroll. I'm just looking at what we have seen so far. They're getting ready to build a whole new facility. I mean, they're putting in grass into the stadium with one game to go. They're forward thinking. They're making right decisions, but they have all the money, it seems like, to back up every decision they want to make. And everything has turned out to be so far a positive.
The similarities between the current ownership and Pat Bowlen is that they were perfect at the time. The times have changed. We are into now a multi-billion-dollar operation in the NFL. And that's not just in Denver. It's in every franchise in the National Football League. So the magnitude of decisions made now from a financial standpoint and an operating standpoint are absolutely huge, and the ramifications are far-reaching. So, very similar results, but in a very different time and space. But I'm with you. I'm just about the biggest fan of this ownership group that I possibly could be. And here's the thing, Eric, I'm impressed by them more and more every single time I have anything to do with them. Melody Hobson is someone that I've been around now for a couple of times because of her involvement in the National Women's Soccer League. She's an owner, one of the owners of the National Women's Soccer League team. I can't think of a more impressive person than this woman is. Her vision, her grace, everything that comes with it. These are very impressive people that have the fate of this franchise in their hands. And I, for one, say, great. I'm glad they do.
Who's Melanie Hobson's husband again?
George Lucas.
Okay. This is what I find to be so interesting about what you just said. You never, nor should you have, mentioned George Lucas one time. Generally speaking, if the woman isn't impressive, it is George Lucas's wife. George Lucas's wife. George Lucas's wife. No, she's not George Lucas's wife. Technically, she is. Legal as she is her own woman. No one associates her with Star Wars. No. Nobody associates her with Skywalker Ranch. She is more than her own woman, just like, to make a comparison, Stan Kroenke was Stan Kroenke well before he married into the Walton family. They both have made a name for themselves. Coming up after the break, how big is tonight's game, a regular season game, against the Minnesota Timberwolves? To me, this is a huge game on a lot of levels. For what I believe, a rivalry is there and will continue. That's next.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a Ford Bronco Raptor or nearly $30,000 in cash the weekend of May 23rd. Get finalist entries from 10 a.m. until midnight during their daily cash drawings every 45 minutes or by redeeming player points. And all daily cash drawings that don't get picked are eligible for a second chance drawing on Wednesdays, and that can turn into extra cash. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch in the DTC. Both locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook is a hangout bar or great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, the DTC, and coming soon to Parker. They are the sports.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hot takes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. Don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corn bake. Man, you gotta try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver. And Haertl, Bruce, it looks like you are feverishly taking down notes right now. Are you prepping for this particular segment right now?
Well, you've got the feverishly right. I'm still kind of running one, I think, probably. But no, I'm trying to connect with our buddy Dave Althouse at the owners' meetings out in West Palm Beach. Tough work for Dave early this week.
I got to tell you something. I find it rich that when you travel, you talk to me about how much work it is, and now you're going to pile on him that he's in Palm Beach, probably working his tail off as well. But now you're making an excuse because of his location. Suddenly it's easy.
No,
fun.
But I know what his afternoon is going to be like, and there's no one that deserves it more. He's going to get all of his stuff done early this morning because, of course, he's in the Eastern time zone, 2 hours in front of us. And then he is going to be on the golf course this afternoon, which is absolutely fantastic.
Huh. Well, good on him getting some golf in there.
No question.
Big basketball game tonight. At least I think it's an important and a big basketball game. Nuggets against the Timberwolves. Nuggets look to snap a 5-game losing streak to Minnesota. This dates back to the playoffs last year. I found this interesting. I read this in the Denver Post. Michael Malone's special assistant, Andrew Munson, made this observation to Malone about the two teams playing each other. And this is what he told Malone. I've watched their last 5 to 7 games talking about Minnesota, and they never play as hard as they do against us. You can sense it and you can notice it. So with that, have the Nuggets dropped 5 straight games to Minnesota, dating back to the playoffs last year, because Minnesota plays harder against the Nuggets, and maybe the Nuggets don't play as hard? Is it just a bad matchup against the Nuggets, or for the Nuggets, I should say? Or is maybe Minnesota just a better team?
Well, they certainly have been better on the days that they've played them. I don't think there's any question about that. This was a team constructed by Tim Connelly, the gentleman that constructed the Denver Nuggets, general manager before Alvin Booth. He constructed a team to compete and to beat the Denver Nuggets. And that is what they have done recently. Look, I didn't need Munson to tell me that they play harder against the Nuggets. All I've got to do is look at what they've done during the season. They're down in what, 9th or whatever it is, or no, 7th, 8th, something like that in the Western Conference right now. But they play like they're lights out against the Nuggets. Yeah, they play harder against the Nuggets than maybe they do against anyone else. This is kind of what they've been designed for. Now, they don't have Karl Anthony Towns anymore. And that was a big, long defensive presence that could shoot the 3 ball. He was traded away. So now it basically falls onto Rudy Gobert and a host of other guys to help with Jokic, but they still have had success. They're 3-0 against them this year. They've won 2 of the games by huge margins. Nuggets should have won the first game, probably ended up losing by 2 or 3. It was a close game. But I do think tonight is important just to establish, but let's make it even simpler. Michael Malone said at some point, you've got to have enough pride to stop the team coming in from kicking your ass. That's a quote from Michael Malone. Well, yes, I couldn't agree anymore. You've got to have a prideful moment. I know these guys are professionals. They make millions of dollars, and some of them are probably somewhat dismissive of this. It's not that big a deal. We've got the playoffs coming up. We'll see how it all works out then. Well, we've seen how this works out. Make a statement for yourselves at the very least that you can handle this moment against a team that you could very easily see, not just in the playoffs. Eric, you could see this team in the first round. They're not that far away from being a 6th seed.
And that's why I'm bringing this up. And when you look at the percentages, you look at the rest of what's going to happen in terms of schedule for the rest of the regular season, there are models that are already predicting it's going to be the Nuggets against the Timberwolves. When you look at all the schedules of all the teams, these will be the 2 teams. I think the Nuggets need to win tonight. To me, this is a game 7 for them. If they face Minnesota in the opening round, they cannot lose tonight's game. They just can't. They need to find a way to show that they can beat this team. Because, maybe Minnesota has gotten up for these games more than the Nuggets. Remember, this is a rivalry because rivalries are built in the playoffs. 2 years ago, or the year that the Nuggets won the championship, they beat Minnesota in the playoffs, right?
Right.
And then last year, the Timberwolves beat the Nuggets in Game 7 when the Nuggets were up by 20 in the second half in Game 7. Anthony Edwards, who I've grown to dislike very, very much, loves playing Denver, as well he should. When this series started, if you remember dating back to when we were doing radio, I felt it would go 7 games. And I was actually kind of leaning towards Minnesota in this series because of the matchup. I said there are 2 big areas where the Nuggets are going to have big problems. Number one, people look at Anthony Edwards as a great offensive player, and he certainly can be, but his defense is just as good.
Right.
And he loves playing against Jamal Murray. And Jamal Murray hasn't been overly consistent throughout the course of his career. And even though he wasn't completely stymied in that series against Minnesota, he certainly had to work. Michael Porter Jr. was completely taken out of that series because of Jaden McDaniels. So 2 of your top 3 scorers aren't necessarily neutralized, but you got to get more from other players. Aaron Gordon has been terrific offensively this year compared to other years. You need Aaron Gordon on the floor. And while Gobert is a great defensive player, Jokic still kind of has his way with him. But in theory, 2 of your top 3 scorers are facing 2 excellent defensive players. That's why this is a bad matchup for the Nuggets.
You know, the thing that makes this,
or maybe
fair enough. And the thing that makes this very interesting for me and my ability to make it harder to understand for me, which is never a far trip, but the Nuggets have the example of their series and their history with the Lakers is a very good example. They've gotten to a point where they almost expect to win against the Lakers. Now, obviously, the Lakers pimped them pretty good the last time that they played. But my point is they had tremendous success for a long period of time against the Lakers. Do the Nuggets play harder against the Lakers? I think you could make the argument that they probably do, much in the same way that the Timberwolves play against the Nuggets. For the whole thing about the Lakers for so long was, who's your daddy? Well, you know what? The Timberwolves have kind of turned that around on the Nuggets. And you don't want to get it for too much down the line. You don't want to get it to 6, 7, 8, 9 games. That kind of stuff is hard to overcome because once a team has the expectation mentally that they will win this game regardless, they're a harder team to beat because they're playing with that type of confidence. So I don't want to put too much into it because it's not a playoff game, but I don't disagree with you. I think that there are a lot of things that can come out of this in a positive way if the Nuggets can find a way to play well and to play and win this basketball game.
The Nuggets' so-called rivalry with the Lakers is an absolute joke. Okay, the Lakers have never looked at the Nuggets as a rival.
Of course not.
Never
right.
once.
I get it.
A rival is only a rival when both teams look at it as a rivalry. I think Minnesota looks at the Nuggets as a rival. I'm not so sure the Nuggets look at Minnesota as a rival.
Well,
What they should look at is losing badly in many of those 5 games in which they have lost in a row. It's time that the Nuggets take the Timberwolves seriously, because while the Timberwolves roster, maybe from top to bottom, isn't as good as Denver's, and maybe it is actually, Minnesota still does not have Nikola Jokic. And for as great as Anthony Edwards is, he is not Nikola Jokic. But the matchups favor Minnesota.
Yep.
2 straight years facing each other in the playoffs. This is a very tough matchup for the Nuggets. That is the rival. And oh, by the way, the Nuggets own Golden State too right now. They own Golden State and they own the Lakers. And what do both teams have of those 2 teams I just mentioned? Aging superstars. That's what they have in Steph Curry and LeBron James. Anthony Edwards is aging into his mid-20s. LeBron James is in his 40s, and Steph Curry is getting up there. I don't want to hear about the Lakers anymore. So what? They beat the Lakers. Who cares? Okay.
I think they care.
It's like,
I mean, I do.
they?
I think the Nuggets care. I think that was and they saw, and they've seen the Lakers very commonly in the playoffs. So I do think that has been a big thing for the Nuggets. But they've got to be able to do this. And I think that the matchup is tougher with Minnesota than it certainly is for the Lakers, or at least it has been. Now with Luka, we'll have to wait and see. And maybe they see the Lakers somewhere along the line. Let's hope that they do. I think it would be a very entertaining matchup. But no, I'm with you. In the here and the now, in a season that has been wholly inconsistent, in a season where they've had very little in which to define them as a team, very little to depend upon consistently night in and night out, making a statement, albeit in just 48 minutes of basketball, hopefully, I think would be a good thing for the Nuggets. I mean, they have shown themselves to be a capable team at various times this season. Can they win a game that is big enough to be on national television where everyone recognizes the importance of it? Do they recognize the importance of it? And Eric, I'm not sure that I know the answer to that. And I don't think Michael Malone knows the answer to that. I don't think he knows if his team does feel that way.
Right. Here, let's look at what Jamal Murray did against Ant-Man in the playoffs last year. I'll start with game 1. 17 points, 8 points on 3 of 18 shooting, 24 points, 19 points, 16 points, and then 10 points in game 6 on 4 of 18 shooting. Ant-Man has Jamal Murray's number. Michael Porter Jr. in that series was even worse. It's matchups. They have to find a way to do something about those matchups, and quite frankly, I don't think there is anything that you can do. Anthony Edwards is going to get his, and he is going to be all over Jamal Murray. And you know, Anthony Edwards loves to talk as well. With all due respect to Jamal Murray, and I'll just say it here, Anthony Edwards is Jamal Murray's daddy. He just is. He just is. And Jamal Murray needs to do something about it. Maybe it's his knee that is giving him problems. I don't know. But Anthony Edwards loves to play Jamal Murray probably as much as he loves to play against Kevin Durant.
And the fact that they've got those
things,
and the fact that they've got those 2 players, Jamal Murray and MPJ, covered means that they can kind of allow Nikola Jokic to do whatever he wants to do. Their attitude is, now look, I'm not going to overstate it, but their attitude is, fine, go get your 38 points and 18 rebounds, and let's keep your assists down. And that's what they want to do, keep your assists down. But they don't have to worry as much about Jokic putting up big numbers because they're taking away the second and the third options in the offense. So it makes it easier for them to win games against the Nuggets anyway.
And, oh, by the way, just in case you are wondering what Jamal Murray has done against Anthony Edwards this year, they have played 3 times, all of them losses by the Nuggets. Does that sound right to you?
Right.
All of them losses? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. On November 1st, Jamal Murray, 22 minutes, 6 points. The next game, 10 of 16 shooting for 25. And
nice.
then in the most recent game, 4 of 15 shooting for 12 points.
That's one impactful game basically in his last 8 games against Anthony Edwards.
Well, he was
not going to get it done.
7. In game 7, Jamal Murray scored 35. But Anthony Edwards has owned Jamal Murray. I almost look at this game tonight, maybe a playoff series, as I'm kind of counting Jamal Murray out. I'm just assuming he's going to be neutralized because we have seen enough over the last 2 seasons, at least the playoffs and then this season, where Jamal Murray's not going to be a factor. We know Michael Porter Jr. is not going to be a factor against Jaden McDaniels, not to be confused with Jaden Daniels, which confused me all the time. So now you're missing 2 of your top 3 scorers. Who's going to step up? Russell Westbrook with his 3-point shooting? Who's going to step up? Aaron Gordon, where he's having a great 3-point shooting year and getting a lot of easy looks with dunks from great passes by Jokic. You know, Julius Randle isn't a great defensive player, but he's capable, right?
Yep.
He's capable.
Right. Yeah.
Rudy Gobert's still a pretty good rim protector.
Sure.
Are you expecting Christian Brown to make up for the scoring of Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray? He's going to start scoring 25 points a game?
No.
It's a bad matchup.
Yeah, it is. It's not a great matchup, but you can still win. You can win.
No, you can still win. But to
Right.
hear Michael Malone say we need to play harder, yes, you could always play harder. But at the end of the day, it's a bad matchup.
Yeah.
Period.
And it's not always about playing with more urgency. It's about just simply playing better. And they've got to play better. That's more important than really the urgency. If they just play better. If Jamal Murray is in an early rhythm and he's in the 25 to 28, 29 point range with a relatively good percentage, the Nuggets will be in this game. No question about it. And probably in a pretty good position to win.
Minnesota lost to the Nuggets in the Nuggets championship season, and that fueled their fire.
Mm-hmm.
They, I do believe, look at the Nuggets as a rival. The Nuggets aren't there yet, but even if they give 100% in every game, and oh, by the way, it better be on the defensive end because that's where their problem is, they're still going to be in a dogfight because their top 2 scorers, generally speaking, won't be neutralized for every game, but for a lot of games. Bruce, you want to close with anything?
No, actually, looking forward to tonight. It's appointment viewing, even though with the late tip-off. I'm really interested in seeing how the Nuggets react in this situation, and it'll give us pretty good fodder for tomorrow morning, I would think.
Bruce, great job as always. Same with you, Alex, who's hiding behind the curtain, unless you want to bring yourself in. There you go.
I'm here.
Nice to see you took a shower this morning.
It's looking
because
good.
It looks like you just rolled out of bed. Yes. Guys, have a great day. Tomorrow, more hot takes with Goodman and Haertl.